Should be a short video. So on the Professor Lewin Doppler effect, this appears to be just semantics, but I'll just be clear on the two statements that Professor Lewin made that he really shouldn't have said. He shouldn't have used the word asymmetry, symmetrical, because there's no violation of symmetry here. And second, he shouldn't have said this only applies to sound and not to EM, electromagnetic radiation of any kind, or any other kind of moving at a constant speed wave phenomenon, because they all obey the same Doppler rules. So in my opinion, there's no justification to say sound behaves differently. It has a different speed limit, but that's the only difference. Inside the boundaries of that limit, the functions are all the same. So those who are misleading, let's say, are poorly articulated, poorly stated, whatever the right way to say it is. And you could argue it's semantics. So what he's basically saying is, and he shouldn't have said it's unintuitive, because what he's basically saying is the obvious, which is 3 minus 2, okay, is not the same as 2 minus 3. Well, of course not. Okay, plus 1 and minus 1 are not the same number, but they're perfectly symmetrical in terms of minus 1 and plus 1. You either add to the frequency 100 units, or you subtract from the frequency 100 units, whether the transmitter has the asymmetry of moving one faster than the other. So if one's going 300 and one's going 200, that's already asymmetrical. So if they're both going 300, then they're symmetrical and there's no difference. Whether this one's the transmitter or this one's the receiver, you'll get exactly the same answer. It'll be 3 minus 3, or 3 minus 3. It's going to be the same answer. So this is really just semantics, but it's kind of important semantics, like I said, in the sense that he made these emphases. First, that it's unintuitive. 3 minus 2 is different than 2 minus 3. Well, that's not unintuitive. And that this only applies to sound when these rules apply to anything. And the third thing was the symmetry. This is about symmetry. It's not about symmetry. Asymmetry in, asymmetry out. Symmetry in, symmetry out. It's that simple. So anyway, so the funny part is Hafladay. So Hafladay made a video basically saying I was right, which I know it pained him to say. But anyway, and so he posted a couple of comments. And one of them, Professor Lewin deleted, which is hilarious. Because I guess he took it as being rude and obnoxiously stupid or whatever. Well, I'll read it. It's just funny that, this is, there really is no way to challenge the authorities without them, their panties all bunching up, and they hysterically overwrite and bold text you and tell you to Google it, and it's just funny that that's all Huffa they got. So he says, it appears you've used the Galilean coordinate transformations for your sound formulas. Galilean transformations are symmetric. And so Professor Lewin says, your statement is meaningless. He puts it in bold. Well, I don't think it's meaningless. Clearly sound is not, you don't use relativity arguments, okay? Einstein relativity for sound. It just doesn't go fast enough to be relevant. What counts is that moving R or T makes a huge difference. Well, it only makes a difference in direction, not magnitude. So the symmetry exists in the magnitude, not the direction. If you have different directions in, you get different directions out, in the sense that they're not symmetrically moving the same magnitude in those directions. So again, there's no symmetry problem. Asymmetry in, asymmetry out. Symmetry in, symmetry out. All right. And so then second comment, he deleted it, and then he says, what you wrote me is utter nonsense. I therefore did not publish it, as that would be rather embarrassing for you. So this is just so, this is such an overreaction to somebody's comment. Like I have to insult him. I'll delete his comment and insult him. So he didn't even read Hathaway's comment, in a sense, allowed it to be published. Or at least I read the obnoxious comments before I delete them. It's perhaps not too late for you, so he puts this in bold, it's perhaps not too late for you to get educated. However, of course, you have the right to remain ignorant. All the best. So he says something that obnoxious, and then says something like all the best. I mean, it's so patronizing, and that's the rhetoric of some troll. I mean, now he's trolling Hathaway. So Hathaway's punishment for writing whatever he wrote, I don't know, maybe he was rude in some way, but I doubt it. I think he just tried to say, I challenge what you're saying because my understanding is it's not consistent with what I've been educated to understand. And instead of just saying something like, well, take my word for it, I'm a professor of 70 years experience, or something. But he doesn't even say that. He gets involved in trolling Hathaway with bold text. I mean, why don't you put it in all caps too? But it's a pretty obnoxious thing to do, in the sense that to reference a comment you won't even read. In the sense that if you're going to delete it and not acknowledge what was said in it, then you really don't have a right to comment on it, I suppose. So unless you're going to paraphrase it or in some way reference the comment's content, to sit there and insult the person for publishing it, to asking it, or presenting it, without even giving a notion of what it was about, that's low. I mean, lower. You shouldn't expect it from an educator. Teachers should have a little more patience than that, right? A little bit more, maybe. Years of experience being asked questions, they really should be able to deal with them in a better manner than this. And then to end it with this all the best after you've, basically insulted somebody's mother. I mean, come on. Jeez. Ego much? So yeah, it's just an ego war. But anyway, so that's all this. So anyway, I mean, Professor Lewin, I just concede that he didn't explain it very well. But there's no asymmetry in recognizing that 3 minus 2 is different than 2 minus 3. And the numbers you get, though, are symmetrical in the fact that they'll always be symmetrical. They'll be the same distance from 0, so to speak. The same proportion. So there's huge symmetry remaining. And the only asymmetry is exactly the asymmetry you put in. So there is nothing unique about transmitters and receivers beyond the fact that obviously if you are compressing something more and uncompressing it less, that you're going to get different numbers, versus uncompressing more and compressing less. It just depends on which order the 3 and the 2 are in. Yes, you'll get a different answer, but there's nothing either unintuitive about that or unsymmetrical. Because if you use the same number, 3 plus 3, or 3 plus 3, you'll have perfect symmetry. Alright, so I made the point. So it is a lot of shit over nothing, but it is amazing the level of shit, for just asking a question. Not allowed. Pretty clear. We don't like that. Alright, so anyway. So Hathaway should, I'd like him to post his comment. I hope he saved it so he could repost it somewhere just to see what he said that created bold text of insult. So anyway, it's funny. Hathaway gave me instructions on how I'm too rude and I asked for it or something, and he's the one who gets the frying pan in the face. So it is kind of funny. I enjoyed it.